IVM.
Geek Fruit is an IVM production, and if you happen to like our show, then you're probably going to like the Poudcast, a Bombay-based food and culture podcast hosted by the Daily Pow. So if you want to check out cool stuff in Bombay, you know where to listen.
You can catch all these episodes and more on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hey, nerds. Before we dive into today's episode of the Geek Fruit Podcast, where Jishnu and I talk about Stan Lee, the legendary Marvel Comics creator and editor for a very long time, we kind of dived into his career, being quite non-controversial, at least thus far, and the man is 95 years old. But we just want to say that we recorded the episode before a few sexual misconduct accusations came to light. And that's all you just need to know. Cool. Enjoy the episode. Hi everybody, welcome to an episode of the Geek Fruit Podcast. Very special episode. It's because we have the OG crew in the house. Like from episode 1. It's Jishnu and Tejas. What's up, Jishnu?
We're from episode 0.
Yeah, we're from episode 0. That's
episode
true.
00.
Yeah, 000 in this case now. Because we've crossed 3 digits.
We've graduated.
Yeah, we have.
But hi.
Hi man, what's up? This is like the old
school. It's been a minute.
Yeah, I know. Where have you been?
I've been around everywhere except here.
Okay, cool. Yeah. No, that's fine. That's totally fine. So today is an episode which we're gonna talk about Stan Lee. Now, why this is relevant is because Stan Lee has been relevant for the last close to 100 years. He just turned 95 years old.
That is very close to 100.
Yeah, it is close to 100. He's
convenient.
He's about as old as the number of episodes we have. So he's lived that many years. For every episode we've had, he's lived a year.
We don't do these kind of shows all that often. I think the last one we had like this was back in October. We did a show about John Williams, who had also at the time won one of his several Lifetime Achievement Awards.
Okay.
And I think it's always a good idea to just take a minute to appreciate somebody that needs all the appreciation he can get.
Yeah, and this guy really does. I mean, he's lived like an incredible life and quite non-controversial in that sense. You know, he's to not really get into his personal life, but he had a single partner. I'm not saying that that's just like he was married to the same woman for like 40, 50 years. Like he's always been advocating for charitable causes. He started different companies for that very reason. Mm-hmm. So he's been a very, very good guy apart from all the amazing creative things that he's done in his life. And I thought for today's episode, instead of doing what most people might think would be like history of Stan Lee, which might come off as not really sexy, we're going to do it in a listicle format. Okay, and we're going to do it as 10 things you didn't know about Stan Lee, and then maybe we can branch off, talk about some other things about Stan the Man.
Okay, but we have some housekeeping to do.
All right, before we do this, yes.
It's been a minute since we talked about any fan mail, and we have a couple of new ones that we need to mention.
Yes,
right?
Some of my favorite fan mail of all time has just come in, which Jishnu, you can read out.
So, Asmita wrote into us a few weeks ago.
Asmita.
She is one of them.
She's like when Agent
She's one Smith.
When he goes, it's like, what is your... A Smith. Agent Smith. He doesn't.
No, he's not James Bond.
No, in The Matrix, when he's introduced for the first time, he's like, who are you? And he goes like, a Smith, Agent Smith. He does that.
I thought you meant like when.
I
thought it's like when he duplicates himself 100 times over. He's like, you thought I was a Smith? This is a Smith. No, that's a Smith.
No, it's definitely...
Everybody's a Smith. Okay,
okay, let's move on.
She says that she just wanted to say that I really enjoy your podcast. I recently started listening
to
it.
Not anymore. Sorry, Asmita. Sorry, go ahead.
So she heard you and Dinkar on Cyrus Says and then followed you guys to the show. She particularly liked the BoJack episode.
Crossover episode.
This is not the first time that somebody's called out that episode. Apparently that was one of the high points.
I also think that's a good episode to kind of get more people into what we do, because BoJack kind of floats between being, this animated kind of bizarre show. At the same time, it's very human drama, even though there are animals in it. But yeah, so that's good. That's great. Thank you, Asmita.
She also brings up a very relevant point to the year of 2017. I also like when Sharanya is around as she breaks up the boys' club.
Very
on point.
Very true.
We need to get some girls in this.
We do.
We need to make more friends.
We're working on it. Yeah. We're working on it. 2018, it's a brand
new day.
Yeah.
Please continue doing the podcasts. I love how you always find something nice to say about all that you discussed, even Iron Fist. I think that's you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's directly you.
I love Iron Fist.
Congratulations on your 100th episode. Hope to continue listening to you for another 100. P.S. I love the Hogwarts sorting game. It's called Dinkar's Game.
Dinkar's Game, you mean?
Get it right. I played with my friends during road trips.
Excellent.
Wow.
We've started a trend.
Holy hell.
How about that?
That's amazing.
All right. Thank you, Smita. Thanks for writing in. Keep listening and stuff. We'll do more. And we'll get more girls on the show. How about that? Yeah. All right.
We'll do our best. We have one more mail, which came in just the other day from...
So I'm just going to harmonize with it. Wow. I've actually just...
Raghavendra.
Right.
I hope I'm saying that right. Hi, Geeks. I would like to congratulate the team on your 100 episodes. I've always felt there was a lack of Indian perspective on the nerd movie scene. What you guys share and speak about in the podcast resonates and is greatly relatable for an Indian adult who had very little exposure in his youth and had to depend extremely on Cartoon Network.
Yep.
Very relevant to last week's episode.
Yes.
And Star movies for geek content and cherish. I've always felt like having an imaginary conversation with nerd friends who I never had when I listen to your podcast. New innovations in VR, maybe. Wink.
Amazing.
Wow.
Let's just actually have a conversation. So, Raghavendra, thanks for being here, man.
He wrote wink, wink. Is he flirting with us?
No, he wants to be part of the episode. I'm going to do that right now. So, what do you think, man, of last week's episode?
I see what you mean.
Great. Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good point.
Keep up the good work. Also, you guys... Okay, so he says... You guys just wasted an entire episode on ghosts recently.
Yeah,
he was flirting with us. He's like giving us the wink, wink, giving us the nod, being our friend, coming into the conversation with us,
office.
And then just shooting it down. You guys just wasted a whole episode on ghosts recently. There was nothing in it. It was filler. Please do not lose the nerd aspect of the show. Being a nerd means we need brain-kindling stuff.
Okay.
The conversation needs to be smart to remain geek, I guess.
Do you know what else is filler and has nothing in it? Ghosts, actually. So there you go. You were really on point in that episode.
Look, I don't know what he's talking about. We didn't even make it beyond like song number 6 on the U2 album. There are like 13 songs. That's a long album.
Yeah, and they're all songs of experience.
We spared you.
Yeah.
You innocents. See what I did there?
You innocents. Yeah. All right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Did you really just end up talking about U2? Because I'm yet to listen to that episode.
Yeah,
and now the odds are low.
Naveen,
catch up.
Remind me. I think it was mainly U2 and then Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, I feel like you've kind of covered Paranormal Activity, another really great episode where we did about aliens.
Because we don't.
Stuff.
I mean, nobody somebody's got to raise the flag,
okay,
wave the flag, whatever it is.
All right.
Yeah. He closes with saying, "Why don't you guys do an episode on mind movies?"
Yeah, we could.
I don't know what that means.
There are there are plenty of
don't all movies have a mind moment?
No, like movies like Predestination or basically mind-boggling films.
Like The Inception, Interstellar kind.
Yeah, but not Interstellar as much as Inception. But then there's movies like Coherence. What is the guy who made Shane Carruth? He made that film, the time travel. He made Upstream Color, and then he made another one, which was the first one which he made, which was like down on like $400 or something. It was just an amazing film on time travel, which is so mind-boggling because they've. It's called Primer. Yes, Primer.
There's a really great new movie that's coming out, which is all about time travel, which makes no sense. I'd call it a mind movie.
Okay.
It's the Mamma Mia prequel.
Ah, yes.
So I can't quite figure out how they're doing that because here's the thing.
Spell cash cow.
Pierce Brosnan and
M-A-M-M-A.
Colin Firth and the other dude, Doctor what's his face from the Avengers.
Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah, Stellan Skarsgård is in it, and so is Meryl Streep. But it's not about them. So it's going to be like a flash forward, flashback.
No,
kind
it's
of
a
thing.
flashback. Definitely, it's a prequel. It's about Meryl Streep's character when she was young, but using the same songs.
But no, that's the thing. So like, is this when a song starts in the prequel version as like young Meryl Streep? Is the pitch going to be changed to be a little bit lower when she gets older? Like, I can't hit those high notes. So like, it's going to like mutate. That would be.
That's the kind of attention of detail that we don't need for this movie. Oh my Mia. All right, let us move on. Let's get to Stan Lee. So Stan's a man. A lot of people know. I mean, kids today. Kids, you may think Stan Lee is just that old dude who keeps appearing in all the Marvel movies that come out. But believe it or not,
can you rephrase that with kids these days?
Kids these days,
as you were.
Kids these days just think that Stan Lee is that old guy who shows up in all the Marvel movies.
Now say it like an old guy named Stan Lee saying kids these days.
No, come on. I'm already old. This is it. This is the voice of an old man. But yeah, most people would think that. But obviously, a lot of people know that Stan Lee is quite important in the Marvel universe. I mean, but beyond the fact that he created a bunch of the characters that we know and love, let me posit this statement.
That you what?
Posit. P-O-S-I-t. It's a real word.
Is it a zit?
A posit. P-O-S-I-T.
Like a pimple?
No, it's when you propose a theory, you posit it.
Like a blackhead?
Sure. So let me posit the theory. Stan Lee's the original Kevin Feige, man. In my opinion, I feel like a lot of the reasons why Marvel's movies are so much more successful than any other franchise that is going on right now is because they have a certain human element, a certain kind of a reason that you can identify with the characters, and that all began with Stan Lee kind of really doing his own original take on the comic book characters. So we're going to get to that. I have 10 points. About Stan Lee that you did not know about.
Start at number 7.
Number 1.
Okay.
His real name is not Stan Lee. First of all, it's Stanley, one word, Stanley Martin Lieber, and he was born in 1922. He was born in the middle of the Great Depression. Can you believe that? He's like, I mean, obviously, by the very nature of the fact that he's 95 years old, and we know he's really old, but 1922.
So that means his parents were pretty depressed when he was conceived.
Yes, they were. And in fact, it was a very troubling time for him. He comes from very, very humble beginnings. They used to live in a 1 BHK in Manhattan, and he grew up all over the boroughs, like in the Bronx and in, wherever else, which is why New York is such a central figure in all the Marvel comics. I think that's quite interesting, that, most of our beloved heroes and battles end up taking place in New York because he was born and raised. So I think that's interesting. His name is Stanley Martin Lieber. And then he officially kind of made it a pseudonym when he was writing comics, and then he legalized it. So there you go. That's point number 1. Did you know that?
7 on 10.
Yeah, well, 1 of 10 actually. Get it?
Let's
anyway, point number 2. Let's skip right into the future. I feel like at this point can we pull up a list of all the cameos that he's made in his movies? Let's talk about his cameos. He holds the number 1 spot in terms of total revenue generated by all the films an actor has appeared in over their lifetime. Just because of his cameos. Think about it.
He picked his cameos well.
Well, he picked his company well, I guess. Yeah, and just because he's cameoed in it and he's appeared in these films, he's the number 1 actor to be featured in the highest grossing films. And since the Marvel Universe has made close to what? They were bought for $4 billion from Disney, and they've made over 15 to 20 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, just by very nature, it makes him the actor. More than Harrison Ford in that case, you know. He's not the leading guy, but yeah. So yeah, man, can we list out all his cameos? Let's just do it. Or let's see if we can do it from memory, Jishnu.
Which is the first one?
The first one is X-Men, I want to say.
Well, the first one, I think...
Blade?
If you want to go way back, I think, wasn't he in the Lou Ferrigno Hulk TV series?
Yes, he was. Yeah. He definitely was.
So,
and he's been in all the Hulks, I think.
I would
Yeah.
imagine.
He plays a security guard with Lou Ferrigno in the Hulk that came out with Ang Lee's Hulk, which came out in 2003, the Eric Bana Hulk. So he was playing a security guard in that.
Right.
And okay, let's do it from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Sure.
Okay, see if you can recall them.
No chance.
Iron Man. Where do you think he is in that? I can't really.
Was he a rich guy in a bathrobe? I see him.
I think he's supposed to be Larry King. In Iron
Man?
In Iron Man 2.
No, wait.
Yeah. In Iron Man 2, he's Larry King.
Yeah, you're right. Wearing a red shirt. It's a POV shot of him leaving the hotel.
He's Larry King in that, and he's Hugh Hefner in the second one. That's right.
Yeah. One or the other.
Yeah. He's there in Thor, when he's one of the guys who's trying to pull Mjolnir out of the New Mexico desert.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He's there in The Incredible Hulk because he drinks the gamma-irradiated drink that is from the bottling factory that Edward Norton works in. Then he is in Captain America as a dude. I can't remember. No, he's a general in the army. He is. Then after that, I feel like Naveen can help us out here.
we're not going to get through this without cheating.
Yeah, we're not going to get through this without cheating. I just thought that it would be interesting to do this only because in the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie that came out, Volume 2 in 2017, which was last year.
That was a fun deep cut.
That was a really good, smart way of doing it.
Yeah.
Because, everyone, all fans just want to link everything together these days. And they just wanted to link all his appearances. And so they just said that, hey, what if he is a popular figure from the Marvel Comics, which is Uatu? Or he's basically, with the Watcher. So basically he's just like he's an alien being, kind of just flits across the universe being random strangers.
I really want to know how they choose his cameos. Like, does he?
I think directors choose them.
Well, do the directors say like, hey, like, how do you pick which scene specifically? Like, when to have that? Like, take for instance the Guardians thing. So that happens when Rocket and Yondu are bouncing around like a million times.
So that was directed by James Gunn.
Yeah.
And he did 2 Stan Lee cameos that day because you don't get Stan Lee for many days.
Right. So, but that's what I mean. Like, so how do they pick when to insert his scene? Because like, take another moment, for example. Like at the end of Avengers, he's on the TV screen when there's like a montage of like news channels
in New York.
Yeah,
I don't believe
exactly,
that.
Right. So I mean, they could have put that moment in at any point in the storyline. They could have, because superheroes have been in New York for the last hour of the film.
Yes. Right.
Publicly, like, correct, in all-out war.
So they could have, they've already been there because the Avengers is after the films that have been.
So I know that, I mean, he probably doesn't have all that much to do with the actual meat of making each of the films.
Oh yeah, he's a name credit.
He's a name credit only.
He's
for
executive producer
for the most part, right? Yeah. But so then, when it comes to these little cameos that he does he just get to say, much like Donald Trump, when like,
Donald Trump's cameos, in Home Alone and
stuff. Like, did you hear? Like, have you heard about this? Like, he whenever makes it a mandate.
Yeah, if you feature a Trump building in your movie,
he's got to be in the thing.
You have to.
So I would imagine if he just like says arbitrarily, "Okay, guys, I'm free on Thursday. I don't have time to change into clothes, so I'm just going to bring whatever I'm wearing, and we're going to shoot wherever you guys happen to be shooting."
No, so here's the difference between Donald Trump and Stan Lee. Donald Trump is a twat, and he makes it a mandate because for Donald Trump everything is brand, and for Stan Lee he's just happy to be part of the entire thing. He's just, and in fact that's the way it happened. It's so funny. I was watching a Larry King interview, which I think I'll play some clips from, where he predicts the future. This is amazing. I'll play that in a bit after this break. But in that, he's just basically like, one director said, "Hey, wouldn't it be nice if you featured in the X-Men movie?" And then the next director of the next film sees that and goes like, "Hey, that's really cool. Do you want to do it in my film?" And then the next one, and so on and so forth. And that's how it became a thing. It was not like he's just like, "Yo, I'm chilling." Like he's not doing much. And so that's how he went on and did all these cameos. So I think it's quite, it just happened very naturally. And the thing about Stan Lee is that he's not a man who has become, even after being 95, like he's turned 95, he's the most positive, energetic guy in the world. Like, I mean, he's the legend of comic books, man. Like, and the godfather of comics. So it would seem that he's very true to the spirit of comic books, which is that he just enjoys the work that he does and just, has a ton of fun,
I'm frankly stunned that being 95, he has not come up in any of these scandals that have been happening in the last couple of months about like sexual misconduct and stuff.
That's what
I'm honestly like,
I'm always worried. I'm worried for everyone.
Yeah, I'm worried for everybody.
Everyone I like.
But like a guy who's 95 and has been so successful for so long and has been in like the public eye and whatnot.
Which is
like,
why, I mean, I opened this.
I'm really
I'm open, and maybe this might change even or whatever it is. But like, I mean, he's, like I said, he's led a fairly non-controversial life. So I think that's a testament to like how much of a classic guy he is. Anyway, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and talk about Stan Lee's earlier years and just talk about how he made timely comics, Marvel comics.
He was very punctual.
Shunyawan, 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 Shunyawan.
$1 billion acquisition. Another copycat startup got formed.
No, the tech world in India is surely moving double the speed of this voiceover.
Tune in to Shunya One every Tuesday to catch us talking to the smartest people we know on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
That's the big problem. Not that kids don't want them, but where do you get them? Can you predict where the internet is going with this? What's it going to be like in 10 years?
Oh, man, the internet is going to be everything. I think there will be one screen, whether it's a computer screen or a television screen or a little handheld thing, but it's going to have your television programs, your internet webisodes and shows. It's going to have your telephone. It'll all be one thing, and it, I believe, will all come under the heading of the internet. And we're going to be linked with everything all over the world. We're on the verge of the most exciting era in communications that you can imagine.
Right. So that's Stan Lee in the year 2000 on Larry King on CNN. And he predicted basically smartphones and stuff like that, you know. And I think that's really just the kind of guy that he is. He's not been somebody who just like made a bunch of comics and sat on his legacy. Mm-hmm. He's just been somebody who's just constantly kind of updated himself and kept himself abreast with technology. And that's why you still see things like Chakra on, you know, Amazon Prime. I don't know if you've seen that show. It's basically about a kid in Bombay who's big because he's just all about still creating new ideas and new characters and new things using the tools that he has. So I think he's been somebody who's been very current with the times for so many years, and he's 95 and he's still killing it, man. Like he's still all over the place. So I think that's just like one of the reasons, and I found that clip just really awesome that he can just like, and Larry King has like zero clue about comic books and stuff, but like this guy's just nailing it. So,
but why do you think it is that Stan Lee's counterparts at DC, which are arguably
there's no figurehead, right?
Yeah, they're
DC.
just as big a name. You know, I'm not talking about numbers specifically because we don't know about that, but not that matters.
Yeah.
They're both equal cultural icons.
Yeah.
In their legacies, the DC characters are just as big as the Marvel guys. How come there isn't one there? That's just a weird thing. Is it that Stan Lee's just been better at getting himself out there in terms of just like being a more marketable, charismatic person?
I think so. That's one thing. I mean, he made a brand out of his own name. You know, he made Excelsior. You know, that's his tagline. Yeah. You know, so I think one of the reasons is because Stan Lee is just somebody who's stuck with it for so long, man. Like, there's not been one person who has just been associated with comic books for the sheer... I mean, there's Jack Kirby.
Yeah, exactly. So when you think of other names like Kirby or like Brian Michael Bendis and people like that, does Stan Lee, has he ever written for other people outside of Marvel?
He has. So obviously he's written for DC as well. But the thing is that he made Marvel Comics what it is. I mean, he's the one who changed the name from, like, it was originally called Timely Comics, then it became Atlas Comics, and then out of sentiment, he kind of changed it to Marvel Comics because he said, I wanted to rebrand stuff. And, you know, if I can just for a second go into, like, how he even made this happen is just that, you know, so he started writing. He was, like, just an intern, like, literally, at Timely Comics, where he just got hired. He was actually a writer. He always wanted to be a writer, and he always wanted to be in publishing, but he just joined the comics division of Timely Comics. Timely Comics had, like, books, and it also had comic books. I just happened to be in comic books. And then he continued working there. He worked, you know, at the time, he wrote a lot of westerns and horrors and romance comics. Like, that was a big deal. And then when DC Comics made the superhero relevant again, they had a big, you know, golden age when, you know, Barry Allen was introduced, and the Flash, and, you know, Batman, Superman, etc. Then, you know, he was really disillusioned with his job at Timely Comics. At the time, it was called Atlas Comics. And he was really close to quitting, and he's been the editor from the time he was 19 years old, right? Until, like, so from 1941 to 1972, he was the editor of Marvel Comics until he became publisher after that. But his wife, you know, this is actually a pretty interesting story. It was around the 1950s when he was, like, really ready to quit, and he was just like, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not working out. It doesn't work anymore. And so his wife was just like, listen, why don't you just give it one last shot? Just write whatever you want to write. And it's fine. Anyway, you have nothing to lose. You can go back into writing after that. And he's just like, okay, cool. So what do I really want to write? And he's just like, I don't want to write a superhero who's perfect. I don't want to write Superman because that for me is boring. And so his greatest contribution to comic books has been the flawed superhero, right? Mm-hmm. And let me just tell you, like, he started writing for, like, preteens. He's, you know, most superheroes were idealistically perfect people. And, you know, he started making more people like like Peter Parker. Like that's arguably his greatest creation with Steve Ditko. I mean, like when he wanted to write a character, when he pitched Spider-Man, he's told the story like a million times, but like when he pitched Spider-Man to his publisher at that time, they all just like, spiders, people hate spiders, And he's like, okay, cool, but I want to make this superhero who's in his teens. He's like, teens? No, superheroes are supposed to be like men and like powerful, strong guys. He's like, no, I want to draw him like a regular dude. And he's like, okay, what else does he do? He's like, oh, he's got relationship problems. He's like, what? They're not supposed to have relationship problems.
He's pubescent.
Yeah, he's and all these things were shot down. And you know how Spider-Man actually ended up happening is because they had a series called Amazing Fantasy. Everybody knows Amazing Fantasy number 15 is where Spider-Man made his debut. And that was, number 15 was the last comic book of that series, right? It was the last issue. And usually in the last issue, they just throw in the kitchen sink and they say, do whatever you want. And so he's just like, let me make Spider-Man the cover. And let me make, and in fact, he'd taken it to Jack Kirby and he said, Jack, draw Spider-Man. And he drew this, amazingly, because he was so busy drawing Captain America, Jack Kirby was too used to making like these really powerful, muscular, like oversized men. And he's just like, nah, that's fine. And the thing is like, he's like, and everyone thinks, oh, didn't Jack Kirby like feel bad about it? He's like, dude, nobody even knew this was going to be a hit. So he's just like, yeah, it's fine. And he gave it to Steve and Steve drew him like a kid. And then after that, what happened was like, they drew it and they sent it out. And then maybe a month later on, they got the sales back in. And then they found that Amazing Fantasy number 15 was like the highest selling one. And that's how, they started doing like different things. I mean, they did Fantastic Four before that, but they started adding like human problems. And that's why, the statement I was making that he's the original Feige is so true. Because like, why do the Marvel films work so well? It's because they're echoing the exact same things that worked in the comics to begin with. And I think that's just really special. So Stan Lee really... like he changed comics forever by just being this guy who could write chill, like you and I could be superheroes, but we'd be like superheroes like how we regularly are. It's like we have problems, we have issues. When we put on the mask, we'd go and help and save people. But and so I just find that like fantastic. I think that is arguably his greatest contribution to comic books. And I think that's just really, really special.
End scene.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. But yeah, man, can I just list out the characters that he's created? Jesus, wow.
No, we don't have time for that.
He's done, no, but like his bigger...
How many characters is that?
I mean, like, I'm just talking about the most famous ones. This is all the people he's responsible for. Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, the X-Men, Bill Everett...
the X-Men is like...
The X-Men.
How many
like
of the X?
Many of the X.
How many X's?
5 to 6 easily.
Oh, that's it? Oh.
Well, all the main characters. Cyclops,
like 100 of them.
Cyclops, Jean Grey. Well, now there are.
Yeah.
But like Cyclops, Jean Grey. And remember, the man was the editor till 1972. He was there for like so long. He's just done... He was also... And this is the thing that a lot of people bring up, and I think we've discussed this on the show before. But you remember like when they changed... Spider-Man to Miles Morales or whatever it is. And, so I remember like a lot of people say, oh, this is not my Spider-Man or somebody else. I mean, Miles Morales is a big success, so that's fine. But like what Stan Lee has always said, he's just like, it's fine. It's all good. He has nothing against the LGBT community. He has nothing against, anything. But he's just like, man, there's your entire imagination to choose from. Why don't you just create a new character, instead of taking the mantle of something else? And a lot of people said, oh, why being that way? But man, a lot of people don't know Stan Lee is the first guy to introduce an African-American character as the first mainstream superhero, which was Black Panther. Yeah, Black Panther, T'Challa. And then he added the Falcon as well to Captain America. So he's been cutting edge in terms of like, and it was also around the 60s where people like, this is what's written on the internet, where the human consciousness was exploding. Basically, people were getting
on
high.
acid, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But, he was very relevant with the times. As I played the clip, you can also imagine that he's still very, up to date with things and stuff. Man, he is a legend.
He's on it.
He's on it. And that's what I think a lot of people need to really appreciate about Stan Lee. I mean, it's not just a dude who's just like sitting on his laurels. Like he's still creating this, he started his own company called Stan Lee Production, and he started this other company called POW. And now POW Productions, by the which 10% Disney owns, of course. So I think they had their eye on that like for a really long time, right? Marvel was definitely on the cards for a really long time. And the thing is, like, he made the series. So basically, what Stan Lee does these days is that he comes up with the story idea and then he gives it to people and they go and write it. And that's how it happened. He did this series on Sky called Lucky Man. I don't know if you heard about that. Yes, it was called Stan Lee's Lucky Man. It was a 10-episode series. And I caught the first couple of episodes and it was quite cool, man. Like, that he came up with this guy who's just got the gift of good luck. And it's like a really cool idea, but they did it in a very...
Yes Man? Yeah. It's kind of like
Yes Man.
It's like an evil cousin, or rather like an evil... I don't know why it's evil, but it's
but yeah, it's a very grey show. Yeah,
it's the offspring of Jim Carrey from Yes Man and Ricky Gervais from the something of lying. The invention of lying.
Oh gosh, that was a poor film. But yeah, and yeah, by the way, highest rated show on Sky.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you know?
Boom, Stan.
Hey, quick question. Speaking of the X-Men, who were the original in the very first issue?
I think Wolverine was a little later on, but I think it was Cyclops, Jean Grey, Hank McCoy, the Beast. I think these guys were. I'm not sure.
How many?
And Professor X, of course.
How many were in the first issue?
I'm not sure. Not entirely sure. But there must be like the first 5. I think he created the idea of mutants first, like with the X-Men. And I think it was just the few of them, because I remember when they made First Class, it was a call back to those original X-Men, which were like, I think even like, not Havoc, but like a lot of these guys were there, like Cyclops.
Havoc was in the first one?
Because Havoc is this guy's brother, right?
Yeah,
so I think it made sense, like story-wise. Yeah. But yeah, we'll ask, let's put that question to our producer Naveen, who's like on it right now.
Look at him.
Look at him
swiping.
All right, let me tell you another thing that Stan Lee is not as famously known for, but which is really, really cool. But before we get to it, Naveen's going to tell us who the original X-Men were.
So there's Angel.
There's Beast. Jean Grey. Cyclops. Snowman? What? All right, so there you go.
And Magneto.
And Magneto, yeah. Huh. And Professor X, I'm assuming, yeah. So, yeah, because you need the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
William Worthington, the third. Is that his name? That's Angel, right, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So there you go. That's the original the OG X-Men. Another practice that Stan Lee invented that a lot of people don't know, but he started, including the inker and the letterer and the colorer, their names in the credits of every comic book. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a practice that is now followed today because he said that's an equally important job,
Go him.
Yeah, so he's like,
awesome.
Look at this guy, man. Awesome. Like, killing it, dude. Like, just, and it's so funny. Like, this is something really awesome. So, my first introduction to Stan Lee, apart from like the movies when we were kids and stuff like that, was when I used to read comics as a kid. I don't know if you read the old Spider-Man issues. Would have the editor's notes, and it would be Stan Lee writing in little boxes what his thoughts were on that scene. I don't know if you remember this. This is like really funny stuff. And that's become a trait now, editor's notes. I mean, like, obviously it's a big part of Spider-Man and now Marvel. But the other thing was that he tried to personalize all the writers in the comic book. So he started an editorial section at the end of every issue where people would write in, because he wanted to humanize the people who are working on Marvel and say, if you write to us, don't say writing, hey, editor. You say, write to us saying, dear Stan and Jack, And that's how that kind of became a big thing. And now a lot of comic books follow that, that editorial kind of pattern. So, like, this guy just friggin' making new stuff, doing cool things.
He's just doing the things that are new.
Yeah.
And consistently and always so doing the things.
Yeah, just doing the things. Anyway, so we're going to take a short break, come back, talk about the last bit of Stan Lee that I know about. And that's it.
Hello, I'm Sanjeev.
And I'm Tushar.
And this is the Rotomouth Podcast, a weekly show where we talk about motors and motoring in India. Cars, bikes, rickshaws, buses, friends, familiars, and time pass.
Find us every week on the IVM Podcast app or any other app you might use. Stuck in traffic? Put on Rotomouth. Taking a while in the loo? Rotomouth is there for you.
Dude, that sounded particularly disgusting.
Thank you. But seriously, catch Rotomouth every week.
All right, we're back. We're talking about Stan Lee. Here's an interesting fact. Stan Lee was in the army. Yeah, for a couple of years. Yeah. He was, he used to fix telegraph poles and stuff like that.
He was born in 1920-something. Of course he was in the army.
Yeah, and, he held a military classification that only 9 other people have held at the time.
Wait, let me guess.
He won't guess it.
Yeah, I won't guess it.
It's playwright. He was a playwright in the army. He was writing all their...
Wait, so does that mean where like the scene in Captain America where he has to play Captain America on a stage in a play fighting Hitler with a bunch of like girls dancing behind them. That's what Stan Lee was doing.
I don't know, but I'm going to say
he
yes.
wrote stuff like that.
I think so.
I want to believe it.
I think so. I think that's fairly accurate. Yeah, because he was I don't know if he was making propaganda or anything, but he certainly lived through the era of it. So yeah, it's hella possible.
Hey, that being said,
Yeah.
there are at least two. If I think hard, I feel like I might be able to find a third, but there are at least two mentions in the MCU of plays and a stage and something funny on a stage.
Thor and
Cap. And I
Cap.
feel like there's a third one that I'm missing. I feel like I've seen Iron Man 2.
Which one? What happens?
Yeah, just, his convention and opening of Iron Man 2.
Oh, well, it's not really a play.
I mean, it's the same thing as Cap.
It's an expo.
It's a big stage with a bunch of girls dancing in the uniform of the appropriate superhero standing in front of them.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
It's really not, but I'll accept it. It's fine. I just find it really, like, I don't think there are very many men like Stan Lee in the world. I mean, like, who gets to kind of create things when you're in your 20s and then, like, live to see it, like, become almost real? Like, like the Hollywood movies and stuff like that?
Steve Jobs.
But he didn't dream up, well, did he? Okay, fair enough. I'll accept Steve Jobs because he's like an inspiration for Tony Stark.
Because he didn't create it with his own hands. He was just like the man in the background all the time. Steve Jobs was an inventor, creator like that, not the exact technical person.
Well, so Steve
to an
Jobs.
extent.
So Steve Jobs kind of became the new reference for Tony Stark, right? Somebody who basically creates new things and stuff. But what our producer Naveen is hinting at is saying that Steve Jobs basically just thought of these great ideas and then got Steve Woz to kind of to make them, which is not dissimilar from Stan Lee. Stan Lee kind of came up with the ideas of all the characters, and then he got Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko.
It takes a village to do anything.
Oh, 100%.
To do anything good,
definitely.
it takes a village. I mean,
yeah. But the funniest thing is that all these ideas, I know Steve Jobs was intentionally trying to create the future, and I think this is where they part ways in terms of likeness. It's just that Steve Jobs was trying to kind of foresee the future and bring change to the planet with technology. But for like Marvel Comics, it was like they were going under, man. Like, and these guys were like losing like sales and business and everything like that. And for them, it was just like, shit, what do we do next? A spider, dude? Sure, let's make it. And then that's how they.
Every company has that.
Well, I'm sure, but like a lot of their characters were made like purely out of necessity to make new creative IPs. It was not like, let's create the new wave of. I mean, even though Marvel Comics is referred to as the French new wave of comic books, I mean, compared to DC, who had all these, big, strong characters who were just like infallible, I think, it's just, these guys were just like trying to just kind of save bank and just make new stuff up so that people read new things. I think there was a lot out of necessity, and they just happened to be really good ideas that people liked. So I think that's ingenious. I mean, that's great. Like, that's really, really cool of Marvel Comics.
Best stuff happens when you least expect it, without agenda.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it was made very purely also, without any agenda. So I think that's really also, testament to Stan Lee and, his body of work. Coming to the last part of our episode, we're going to talk about, I don't know, what are we going to talk about?
I have an open letter that I've penned to Stan.
Go for it.
Okay.
This last piece of trivia. I think one of the TEDx gateways that happened at Gateway of India, Stan Lee gave a presentation via webcam.
A couple of years ago, right? That was like 3 or 4 years
ago.
So
when they announced it, I almost died. I was just like, what? Is Stan Lee actually coming here? I would have totally gone for it if he did. But he did it via webcam, which is not terrible.
But it's not.
But he could have recorded that anytime. I don't know if it was live or if it was just like... Was it live? I'm sure it was live.
Are you sure?
Because
it would have had to been like 4 in the morning for him or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, but,
And he's an old man.
What's the point of recording something and then just,
Old people sleep more than they're awake. So...
But Stan Lee's a different kind of person, dude. He can do anything, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So in conclusion, it's a bit of a long one, but it's sincere. Dear Stan, I meant to write you sooner, but I just been busy. You said your girlfriend's pregnant now. How far along is she? Look, I'm really flattered you would call your daughter that. And here's an autograph for your brother.
Oh, no.
I wrote it on a starter cap. I'm sorry, I didn't see you
I
at
would
the
have
show.
been more impressed,
I must have
Jishnu,
missed you. Don't think I did
if
that
you
shit
repurposed the lyrics to make it about
just
Marvel
to diss
Comics.
you.
Can you do that right now for us?
But what's this Marvel shit you said about you like to cut your wrists too? I say that Marvel shit just clowning, dog.
You can't
Come
just
on.
insert the
How
word
up
Marvel.
is you?
You can't just insert the word
You
Marvel
got some
and make
issues,
it
Stan. I think Peter Parker needs some counseling.
Oh, that's good.
To help your ass from bouncing off these walls.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
When you get down some, and what's this shit about us meant to...
It's
okay.
only when you really analyze Eminem's lyrics do you realize how not great they
Look,
may be.
it's gonna take a lot out of me to get through this entire thing, so I'll just skip to the best part, which is I drank too much last night. I got bills to pay. My head just feels in pain. I missed the bus, and there'll be hell to pay. I'm late for work again. Marvel.
Okay, great. I think you could... I'm going to assign you the task of making a music video to Stan, featuring Stan Lee, but with, all clips of him from different movies, which you could actually make a music video out of the number of, times he's appeared on screen.
Yeah, that's a good question. I want to know how many total minutes Stan Lee has had of screen time in his entire career.
It may be
It might be a feature.
It might not be at all, because it's
like
his
30
cameos are like
seconds.
seconds, man. Though, let's end like this. Which is your favorite cameo? I have one. And surprisingly not from a very good movie, so yeah.
Maybe... I like the Tony Stank joke. That was fun.
Oh.
But that's just because I love everything
Civil
about
War.
Civil
Yeah,
War.
no, definitely. Yeah, that's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think my favorite is from the movie Amazing Spider-Man 2 or 1, one of them. I think it's 1, yeah. Sorry. And in that, basically, the Lizard and Spider-Man are having a fight. And they they're fighting in the school campus, the Midtown campus. And basically they enter this room where Stanley's basically got headphones on and he thinks he's like a music conductor or something. He's just listening to records or something. And the whole fight is happening behind him and he's just clueless. I thought that was just really well made and it was also really fun.
Actually, in that same vein, I do really like the Doctor Strange one.
He's
sitting on the bus and he's reading the
Aldous
thing.
Huxley. Yeah, great.
And it's hilarious, like I was watching the BTS of that, of like the making of, because every time these movies come out, like just a week later they put out all the VFX behind the scenes stuff.
Right.
And it's great seeing that because they were talking about how they filmed those cameos, right?
Yeah.
Like you said with James Gunn.
Right.
They film a bunch of Stan Lee cameos and just pick whichever one works best.
Oh, I see. Okay,
and so that's, as Doctor Strange is, a very CGI heavy scene, right? So Cumberbatch and Chiwetel Ejiofor were just given the direction of, okay, here is a piece of glass, green screen is behind you, now Stan Lee is going to be in front of you. And they're like, wait, what? When is this? Like, it's when you're falling and the world is upside down, you fall and you hit a bus. Like, okay, and then what happens? It's like, and then Stan Lee's inside it, you see him, and it's funny. He's like, what's he doing? We don't know yet. He doesn't know yet. Just look
That's
confused.
hilarious.
And so they just fall flat on glass. They just go like,
these CGI movies and the lack of clarity from the actor's point, but the supreme vision a director needs to have is insane. Anyway, on that note, let us conclude the episode. Thank you so much, Jishnu, for coming back to the show. This is cool. It's just the both of us. Like episode 0, it's great.
And even if I'm there,
the other guys, man, like this is it. Let's just keep it back to now.
Even if I'm there, they'll all imply that I might not last the day, and then you can call me, and it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
All right.
And it ends on the word "and."
Yeah. My tea's gone cold. I'm wondering why.
You drank too much last night.
All right, cool. So
Got bills to pay.
That's our episode. For any interesting things we may not have covered about Stan Lee,
Sure,
if you
there's plenty.
Yeah, there's the 100.
Do let us know. We love hearing from you guys. We love
we love the emails.
We love the
However
emails.
harsh they might
good,
be.
bad, or ugly, man. Thank you so much for even listening and taking the time to write to us. We always welcome that. Please keep listening and
contact
stuffs.
geekfruit@gmail.com. Contact geekfruit@gmail.com and geekfruit.in is our website. We're all on social media at geekfruithq on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can find Jishnu and me on Twitter as well. As I'm at Tejas Menon and Jishnu is
at Jishnu Guha.
Perfect. So yeah, thanks for that, and see you nerds next time. Excelsior.
There she stands, a podcast addict, outside the bank, having traveled several miles to get in with other poor souls like her. The journey, though daunting for this youngling, will have some comfort because she has downloaded her favorite podcast. You can see more of her species on ivmpodcasts.com. your one-stop destination where you can check out the coolest Indian podcasts. Happy listening.